Welcome back to House of Hollingsworth. I'm Kate and I'm about to start my first custom piece of furniture for the year. So this is an oak sideboard and I'm going to strip and refinish it to show the wood grain again. The old finish is super thick. You can't tell what type of timber it is or anything. So I'll show you a few close-ups to give you a better idea of what we're working with.
This sideboard's in relatively good condition, but the finish has darkened a lot with age and is starting to fail. I love the beautiful brass handles, but unfortunately a couple of them are missing. The top is heavily scuffed and stained, but it's all just years of wear and tear that I would expect from the top of a sideboard. The mirror has some desilvered spots, but is otherwise in good condition. It's not bad, but it could be a lot better.
When I'm stripping an old finish off of a piece of furniture, there are two products that I use all the time. The first is methylated spirits. This is what will strip shellac-based finish. People always ask me, how do you know if a finish is shellac? I don't always know. So I always try a test patch with methylated spirits. If I'm not sure, if I think maybe it's a shellac finish, I will try this because shellac is the easiest finish to remove. For everything else, I use poly paint stripper. So I'm going to do a test patch using both the strippers to show you how each work. I don't know what this piece is finished with, so it'll be a surprise to both of us. So for the methylated spirits, I use superfine steel wool to apply it and to scrub it off. Oops, I just spilt it. All right, let's start with a little bit there. Oh, yes. Yes, 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 indeed. Let me grab a paper towel. Oh, happy days, my friends. This is a true shellac finish. So this is going to be so lovely to strip. I'm so excited. Oh, it's got the keys in it. I wasn't expecting that. Okay, I'm going to remove the hardware as I go and label what each of the drawers, number each of the drawers as they come out. Let me just grab a spanner. The old hardware is so beautiful, but two of the pieces are broken and I haven't had any luck finding the exact same ones. I won't give up just yet. But yeah, I might have to replace all of them if I can't find the same pattern, which isn't a problem. I always keep the old hardware that I have replaced. It's just that I love the pattern of it so much that I was really... Okay, two things. First of all, my phone overheated, so I don't know if there's any footage at all of me taking the doors and drawers out of this piece. Secondly, I'm not doing a vintage French oak colour on this. Luckily, I remembered that there's another piece in my client's house that she wants me to match this to, and it's like a raw oak. It's just the normal oak colour. So that's what we're doing with this. We're not going to lighten it. We're just going to strip it and seal it. So hopefully I will get some footage of me stripping it before my phone overheats again. This is how thick the old finish is. You can see that it's actually really hard to see the grain pattern through this thick layer, but once I started stripping the old shellac off this, I can see that this isn't oak, it's mahogany, which was a lovely surprise. So this top has had a couple of rounds of stripping and it's now ready to be sanded. Sanding will take care of a lot of the unevenness, but I'll be able to get through it quicker because the sandpaper won't clog up because I've stripped off the majority of the finish in the first place. The plywood under there is actually really clean considering how old it is. I spoke too soon. This one's quite grubby, so I don't know if I'll be able to get those marks out. I might have to end up putting new drawer liners on those shelves. I'll see.
You might wonder why I bother stripping the old finish if I'm just going to sand anyway, but it's a lot quicker and easier to sand once the shellac has been removed. Otherwise, the shellac gums up the sandpaper after about 5 seconds and sanding becomes really difficult. I'm taping off the mirror before I spray the sealer, and this is my technique for taping off. I start by taping the very edge with blue painter's tape, which is the good stuff. Then I find an old scrap of plastic, in this case it's an old bag, and I tape that on using cheap masking tape. Why don't I just tape the plastic straight to the mirror, because it's a lot harder to get a crisp line of tape when the plastic is attached. This is just the technique I've found easiest to do. Taping off sucks at the best of times, so you do whatever technique works for you. You don't even need to repurpose old plastic like I do. You could use a plastic drop sheet if that's easier. I've got a bit of a dilemma with this piece now that it's completely sanded. I'll just wet the drawers and I'll show you what I mean. So if I went to seal this as is, this top drawer would turn out a nice pink colour, and the middle drawer and bottom drawer would turn out that dark colour. And that's too much of a contrast for me to sit with. So yeah, I don't love it. So I'm going to play around with some water-based stains and see if I can get this whole piece to be more of a uniform colour. I'm using a water-based stain by Cabot's called Sutherland Teak, and it's a light colour with a touch of grey in it. Just brush it on and then wipe it off. You can leave the stain on for a few minutes to let the colour darken if you like, but it was such a hot day I had to wipe it straight off before the stain dried completely. As I wipe the stain off, you can see that there's still a lot of colour variation between the two draws. So next up, I'm going to mix a bit of Sutherland Teak with a bit of a darker stain and then apply it to the lighter draw. And yes, I end up double dipping my dirty brush into the second tin of stain. It's incredibly lazy. It'll be our little secret. Combination of the two different stains I've got, I now have the three drawers the same kind of colour, and I've also darkened these two side pieces that were very, very light. Okay, so I'm happy with that, and now I'm going to stain the rest of it. I'm going to do the, where is it? Sutherland Teak. I'm going to do this one first all over and see if it brings it to a nice even colour, but I suspect the very top of it will be too light still, and then I might go back in with the darker shade, which is teak, and do a layer of teak. So yeah, I'm just going to play around with it until I get it right.
It honestly looks so good after it's been stained. Like I love the colour. I love the colour that it's turned out. I love that it's all sort of blended into the same tone now, instead of there being really light bits and really dark bits. The mirror, the wood of the mirror part is so spectacular. So now it just needs a couple of coats of sealant and then I can put it all back together again. So I'm just taping off, ready for painting. Not painting, but sealing with the poly. And depending on the piece, sometimes I spray it with the doors and drawers attached. Yeah, it just depends. So I'll show you what this looks like. I'm just putting a little tiny bit of tape around the edge and taping off the handle holes. Then, now when I spray it, see if I spray just from the front, then in here, this little bit won't get covered, but I'll make sure that I spray it down like that so that it covers that bit, and there's enough of a gap that all of this is visible, like it'll be able to reach it. And if there's any bits that don't get the poly on them, then I'll go back and touch them up. But being able to seal the being able to seal the drawers at the same time as I'm spraying the cabinet is really handy, convenient. But I am going to tape off the doors with plastic because I don't want to hang the doors and then spray it, because then you get the poly on the hinges and I don't like that look.
This is where it all goes wrong. I'm spraying on the water-based poly that I've used 100 times before, and I have no idea that this is actually going to wreck all my careful prep work. You see, what I paid zero attention to is that the temperature and humidity are both too high for the poly to set properly on this day. So what's happening is that the poly is setting almost the moment it leaves the spray gun. I can't see it as I'm spraying, but what I'm left with is a finish covered in tiny white globules of hardened poly. I'm gutted. There's no way to fix the poly. The only solution is to sand it all off and start again. On the upside, the poly, although dry, has not cured, so it's quite soft and easily sands off. I can sand the poly and stain off every inch with 180 grit, and I also know exactly what colour to stain each panel, so all up, the sanding, staining and sealing takes a lot less time on the second go round. couldn't find the exact match for the old handles, so I replaced them all with a similar style. The important thing to remember when replacing a handle with a keyhole is to make sure the key still turns in the lock. So put the key in the lock and turn it, and that's the exact position the new handle needs to be attached. I always add new drawer liners when possible. I used to glue down wallpaper or thick wrapping paper as drawer liners, but I've been using peel and stick wallpaper for years now, and I can't imagine I'll ever go back to using anything else. Peel and stick is easy to use once you get the hang of it. It takes a little trial and error. And it's removable when you want to change it. I always try to line up one side perfectly, but then leave overhang on the other three sides. It just saves that tiny bit of time not needing to cut the excess off from that one side. I often get asked where I buy my liners from, and I buy them from Amazon. I'll link my Amazon store in the description. I've looked for peel and stick wallpaper locally, but never found any I like. So let me know if there's anywhere in Australia that sells these dark coloured vintage botanical patterns. I'd love to know. For the inner parts of my furniture that aren't sealed, such as the drawer sides, shelves, the inner sides of the doors, I add a coat of Gillies orange oil. Now this will nourish the timber and bring out the rich colour and the grain pattern. And as an added bonus, it makes the furniture smell so beautiful. Here's a reminder of how the sideboard looked before, and here's how it looks now. The colour is a much better match for my client's home. You can clearly see the beautiful mahogany grain again. The satin sheen of the poly gives the piece that perfect amount of shine. The new brass teardrop hardware is a showstopper while being true to the style of the piece. I've done a good job of achieving a similar tone throughout, even though some of the timber was very light and some was very dark. This is such a gorgeous piece of furniture, and it's been given a new lease on life. It's not just sitting in storage, gathering dust somewhere. Refinishing antiques like this gives me so much joy, knowing that someone will lovingly use this piece again for decades to come. I hope you enjoyed watching this mahogany sideboard makeover today. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you next time.